What's up, y'all? It's your boy Carcino here, man. Let's get into this. R. Kelly's wife, or ex-wife, sorry about that, Andrea Kelly, decided to come out and talk about the R. Kelly song "I Admit." Now, the song "I Admit" was a spin by R. Kelly to try to promote and get people back interested in him. He started by leaking this information first to Wendy Williams. The song is almost 20 minutes long. It's 19 minutes long. And this is supposed to reveal everything. And this is a situation, like I told you, where an attacker wants to play the role of victim, and everyone else is attacking him. So he really didn't admit anything. He's admitting that he's the victim in the situation. Now, his ex wife wants to use this moment to point out things that happened in their marriage, where she said, "Admit it, admit it, admit it. Your mama is watching over you and rolling over in her grave because of the abusive things you do, you say. She's looking down from heaven, so there's nothing she didn't see, which means she saw you beat me from heaven and neglect her grandbabies. Admit it, admit it, admit it. Your children you don't see because you treat them like your fans and not your flesh and blood. Please, being a dad, being a deadbeat dad is a conscious choice. You can FaceTime with them every day. They'll see your face and hear your voice. So admit it, admit it, admit it. Then go get some professional help. Own the pain that you've inflicted on others. All by yourself, even though you can't read or write. It didn't stop you from making hit songs. But you don't have to read or write to know domestic violence is wrong. So admit it, admit it, admit it. Your past is not an excuse. Just because you were abused doesn't mean you get to abuse. Admit it, admit it, admit it. Because the truth will set you free. Nothing good is going to come to you until you do right by me. Now, here's the thing about R. Kelly's, ex-wife. Okay. And this goes from me being from Chicago, Illinois, and being in the areas of where, she's from and things that have happened. She was with him through all these allegations. She was with him through everything thick and thin. And people told me that she is bat it crazy. It's like she is Brandy number two. She is bat it crazy. And they believe she should have been on medication a long time ago. And her and R. Kelly was a toxic couple from the jump. And they still got married. Now, again, I don't know the ins and outs of their situation, but she basically was living the way he wanted her to live, and she didn't mind as long as the money was coming in, and she got to do what she wanted. Now that the money is low, now there's problems. Now it's the abuse. Now everything's coming out, and then in her admitted, she plays off the misery and suffering that others have suffered just so she could say the words until you do right by me. So now it's all about her. Like, you abused me, and where was this at when the money was flowing? I'm quite sure it didn't start once the money got low. But okay, R. Kelly is what he is, and he's been that way for a very long time, and it hadn't been addressed. There's plenty of people who tried to help him and stop him, but other people who just saw the money coming didn't want to stop it. It was like, let's keep making money off the train until it derails. This guy don't know how much we're taking anyway. There's a story that R. Kelly went into what was it, Kmart at the time. It was a place called Kmart. I don't know if they're all closed now. I don't know if you guys even know what that is. He went into a Kmart back in 1996. Brought all his people with him and everything else, and he grabbed some stuff to buy. And gave the lady the money for it. They were showing him, I think he was buying his own CD, and like, I'm buying my CD, I'm buying this, So he was doing a little run through. So he gave the lady the money, and it wasn't enough. She was like, I need like, I need like $6 more. And he was confused at this point. So he just laid all the money down on the counter and said, "Take what you want, take what I need, what you need." And the person was like, just excited and just took the money, and took the right amount to pay it. But she was like, "I don't think he can count," because she was like, he was confused, and I don't know if he was sleepy or what, but she was like, he didn't know how to count. And there's a lot of people like that. It's sad that R. Kelly was allowed to go through his life and still not try to read. Or people say, well, he suffers from dyslexia. It's a shame that nobody really got him some help in his own family to try to say, hey, my nephew, my cousin, he can't read. Now, R. Kelly and myself, as I've told this story, I believe before, I just didn't mention any names. R. Kelly beforehand definitely doesn't get any type of respect from me. In 1994, he was, I think he had just finished the 12th Play album. He was the biggest thing in hip hop at the time. 12 Play is probably and still is just one of the best songs right now. A lot of you kids right now are born because of that record. Y'all don't know it, but that record was playing when you was conceived. I have no doubt about that. Now, 12 Play was so massive that fans knew who R. Kelly was. Before all the accusations that the world knew about. A girl that lived on my block, about 3, 4, 5 houses down, on the same block as me, Tiffany Hawkins. Since 1991, she was dating R. Kelly when she was 15 years of age. Now, I was the only person that I knew of that she shared this information with, as he basically threatened her not to say anything. And I think this is when the 12 Play album was out and just ruling the world, is when, you know, everything was basically over. But for 3 years, she said she was dating R. Kelly. She told me she was working on music with R. Kelly. Told me personally. When everybody went home and everything, and I was out there, and I was wondering, like, she had became distant. She wasn't around as much as she used to be. She was more reserved, and it felt like she just felt like, I got to tell somebody. And she told me that she was working with R. Kelly. She didn't tell me any details about anything else, is that they were working on music, and she's like, nobody believes it. Her mother worked at the office where R. Kelly used to work at the studio. She was in the same building. So she brought her daughter one day, who was a big fan, and they had, at this time, it was R. Kelly and the announcement or something, when they had Honey Love. So they were just an R&B group, and he was working on 12 play and things of that nature at the time. So that's when they met and kept in contact. And the mom didn't know any of this was going on. So she was keeping secrets from her own mother. But as the years went on and went by, she stated how allegedly R. Kelly forced her into situations that were very uncomfortable, made her cut school, come hang out with him and his buddies, had her inebriated off drugs and weed, and having her make out with other girls. And this was when she was 14, 15 years of age. She told this story of, how she almost committed suicide because of it. And she was like thrown to the side because one time she just said she couldn't do it. And he just was not having it. And she felt like she let him down. And this is a 14, 15-year-old girl. She used to be a straight A student to basically dropping out at the time. And a lot of us knew something was going wrong with her and going on at the time, but we didn't know what until she came out and told the rest of the world. And she put out a $10 million lawsuit against R. Kelly. Now, the rumors in the neighborhood was already like somebody in the neighborhood knew. Her older sister, I think our older sister knew what was going on or something. But other than that, the rest of the world, we really didn't know until she basically said, okay, here it is, to the rest of the world, and everyone knew what it was. And she sued him for like $10 million. Allegedly, they settled for out of court for like less than half a million. But still, it didn't stop the vultures from coming on her porch. My God, they thought she got millions. They all popped up over there on her porch, and I think she bought her mother's house. But in that agreement was a gag order that she can no longer talk about this case with anybody. So gone is her rights to, go out there. I don't think she wanted to talk about this anymore. And I saw her like I think it was after she had gotten her settlement and all this stuff. It was many years after, because she got the settlement in like 98 or something. I saw her and she came down and she spoke to me, and she was going around the cul-de-sac to leave, and she saw me. She had her son at this time. And once the story came out, people thinking R. Kelly was the father of the kid, and all kind of stuff. But no, she was like, no, that's not R. Kelly's son. So a lot of things were going on at the time, but we actually spoke for the first time, and I just gave her a hug. That was the best thing I could ever do for her, because you can't really do anything for anybody at that time. I mean, what could you tell her? What could you actually say? I mean, I'm sorry. I just thanked her for being brave and moved on. But and hugged her and said, if you ever want to talk, like, you can talk to me, it'll be all good. And from that moment on, that was it. Well, there are multiple situations that happened that made people go, wow. But right then, it should have been nipped in the bud, because after he broke up with her in '94, the songs and stuff that never came out that she was working on, all those songs went over to Aaliyah. Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, all these songs that she was working on He basically just shoveled those over to Aaliyah and replaced her like that. And for a 15-year-old girl, that's devastating. I mean, at this time, she was like 17 or 18 or whatever, but that's still devastating. She's been replaced by a younger girl. So it was very damaging to her. His manager came out and settled with her. Rocky did, got a settlement, and now they have a gag order as it's documented. And you can go to the Guardian, Chicago Sun-Times, Chicago Tribunes. This is documented. That's the only way I could even share this information with you. Now, right after this, he marries Aaliyah, marries her in Rosemont, Illinois. After he makes her, allegedly makes her, say that she was 17 years of age, fake a birth certificate. And because people were so money hungry and that they were getting ready to marry a celebrity, they run down and get married. The family's irate. It causes a lot of infighting. And the information eventually leaks, which it always was going to, and they had to get this thing annulled. As he was at a Bennigan's with Rocky, having a heated argument with his manager, who he did this behind his manager's back, everything else, and his manager Rocky is steadily trying to put out another fire that was created by Robert, who seems like he's determined to torpedo his career. And here it is, 20 years later, the Pied Piper is still doing what he's doing. 25 years later, the Pied Piper is still on the prowl. Now, here's the thing. What he's doing now is completely legal by standards. If the women that are living in his home are not complaining, they're not saying, I want to go home, they're legally of age, what right is it for anybody to tell them they got to leave? They're being abused. If they say, I'm not being abused, if they say, I'm grown, they're legally the right over 18, and he's saying, this is my house, my rules, and they want to abide by those rules, then there's nothing no one can say or do. So now you want to sabotage this man because you don't like his lifestyle. Now it's time to sabotage. You see how things work? When he was doing things illegally, everything was okay. It was business as usual. But the moment he started living a lifestyle that you just don't like and telling them what to do, and they are going for it. They're the ones putting themselves in this position. The door, I'm quite sure they could walk right out of it whenever they feel like it. They want to be where they at. They're drawn into the star power that is R. Kelly. But if they're legally of age, then there's nothing that they could do about it. So all these talk about the sex dungeon. What is that about? What is it truly about? And they want to combine the things he did in the past to justify them coming after him today. He was a monster back then. He's done nothing but continuously be the monster he is. That's the situation. That is the only situation there is. There is no other situation. There is no other narrative. It's only that. So unless somebody else got something else to add, or they complain, besides people who've been fired, then they can't do nothing about it. But like he said, y'all should have stopped me 30 years ago. Y'all should have really got him 30 years ago when you had the chance to get this guy help. And you didn't. So around and around the carousel you go. I'm out.